Welcome to another edition of the Gold Nose Podcast. I am your host, Gregory McCoy. This podcast is by a fan for fans. I am not a journalist. I am not a reporter. I am not an insider. I do not work for a website. The majority of my content comes from me, in my opinion. Other information comes from the internet. College football, man. I mean, you got to really look at the broader picture here. Okay? TV money. Fox versus ESPN. Who is the parent company of those two networks? So, if you can answer that question, that should tell you all you need to know about what's going on. I think in major college football, quote unquote, Power 5, you are moving towards a NFL model. I don't really care how they structure it, what teams are where. I really don't care. I just want better games. Okay? The thing for me is I don't want to see, Florida State, Duquesne. Just an example. I don't want to watch that game. I don't. I would much rather see Florida State open up with, I would rather see them play Duke. I mean, if I'm having to choose between Duquesne and Duke or a harder opponent, give me South Carolina. Okay? Give me Kentucky. Give me Oregon State. I don't care. Just give me a game, a real game. Give me some really good games every week, man. And if you're not moving, and I believe they are moving toward that model, because the better the games, the more viewership, it's just going to be more money all the way around. And that's the name of the game, money, viewership. And I love it. If it's going to equal better games to watch on TV for the fans. You know what I'm saying? I love that the players are finally getting some of the money out of this. I love it all the way around. If you're the SEC, I think the ACC is done, bro. If you're the SEC, you go get Virginia Tech, all the North Carolina schools, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Miami. You go get all those teams. All the North teams. Just let the Big Ten have those. Right? And then, you could go back. You could go get Oklahoma State. You could go get Kansas. Kansas and Kansas State would probably go Big Ten. You could still go get Stanford if you're the, not Stanford. I don't know who the SEC could get because there's really not a lot of teams left. You got Texas on lock. You know what I'm saying? You could go get Arizona State maybe and try to get that Phoenix market. But, I just the matchups that are going to be created from this mega conference, shift, it's going to be crazy. I like it, though. I like it. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to Florida State playing the Florida Gators and the Miami Hurricanes. After that, and maybe even the Clemson Tigers. After those three games, I really don't care who we play. But those are just three games that, I just feel like just for my school, for my team, is a must. So, I really don't have a problem with this at all. If you're going to, if they're going to do this new, two super conference type of deal, and it's structured to where you can actually have real playoff games and there's not a committee picking the teams that get into the playoff, I'm all for it. But if you're gonna stick with the same model as far as picking playoff teams, I'm against it. I just want everything settled on the field. Everything settled on the field. No committees. None of that. And that's it. And this is gonna be big time. At the end of the day, they saying the Big Ten did a stab in the back move. Well, I mean, this is business. And when you're doing business, you always gotta have your force field up all the way around to protect yourself. Like, first and foremost, I'm not going to, in this business, college football, where money is the king, I'm not going to trust anybody. So the Pac-12 and the ACC should have been doing their due diligence, and they should have been prepared for that. I don't think anybody was ready for that UCLA USC move, but I mean, in the back of my mind, okay, I have to be ready on all fronts, So I seen a clip of the UCLA athletic director, and he was basically explaining why they made the move to the Big Ten. And he said that, now our exposure, our footprint is all over the country, and we're in all 3 time zones. And I have to agree with him on that. That's more exposure. You're going to get more exposure to recruits. It's a win-win, man. I mean, I'm just, like I said before in past episodes, I don't have a problem with expansion or other conferences being absorbed. I mean, the ACC might be absorbed. I mean, it is what it is. I think if you the SEC, your 3 main targets are Clemson, Florida State, Miami. And really, your goal should be to get all the Southeast teams. Virginia and down. I would let the Big Ten have Syracuse and Boston College and those teams. But everybody else, I would go after those teams. I just think it's going forward. I mean, when this thing finishes unraveling and everything and all the dust is settled, I just want to see how this thing is going to look. And like I said before, if it produces better football games in terms of matchups, if week 0, we're still seeing Power 5 school versus Portland State. Or if we're seeing Power 5 school versus Richmond. Or if we're seeing Power 5 school versus Gardner-Webb. Like, nobody wants to see those games. We want high impact matchups week 0 all the way up to, conference championship weekend. That's what I want, at least. So I'm really interested to see how everything unravels and, how everything, when all the dust is settled, how everything settles down. I mean, we probably ain't going to know until 2025 because a lot of these movements and, realignments and teams jumping ship is not going to really shake out until about 2 or 3 years from now. And just like I said, for Florida State, I mean, you got to go where the money is, because you don't have a big money booster. You don't have big money boosters. Not to the likes of, SEC schools. So if you can join the SEC and get potentially $100 million in TV money, you got to take that. It's the biggest no-brainer in Florida State history. You got to. For the survival of your program, you have to take it. Okay? I mean, $30 million in the ACC is, pocket change. You telling me I can make another $70 million? You got to do it. You have to do it. Just 1 year of TV money, that's your football only facility right there. Boom. No more having to raise money. So it's just going to be real interesting to see what the power brokers, the decision makers for Florida State football, how they do this thing. I really don't care about basketball. You play 32 games in basketball, so I really don't care. Like, football is the daddy, and I'm really excited, man. Like, it's going to be crazy that you're probably going to be able to see USC and I don't really care about UCLA, but it's going to be crazy that you could potentially see those schools every week now. Notre Dame, you're going to have to join a conference for your survival. And I seen somewhere where their TV deal is only $15 million for NBC. I don't know if I watched a video or if I read it somewhere. That can't be the case. That cannot be the case. It just can't be. The only way the ACC survives this thing, they have to get Notre Dame to commit in football. That's really the only way I see the ACC surviving. That's how big Notre Dame is in this thing. They have to get Notre Dame to commit to the ACC. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. The ACC would need probably Notre Dame, and there's not really another big time media market on the East Coast that they could add. Charlotte's not a really big media market, and their football program is not even 10 years old yet, so that doesn't make sense. It just, I don't know where you go from there. I mean, maybe you go get, I don't know, Oklahoma State. I don't know who you go get, but obviously this little pact that the other conference made to go against the USC, that didn't work, because the Big Ten quickly pulled the knife out and stabbed everybody in the back. I think that's hilarious, but it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I've seen some stuff on social media about Florida State negotiating with the SEC to join the conference. And you can't really take social media seriously. I think people will just put stuff on there just to get, reaction or views or whatever. But if it's true, I just think this time around, Florida State, this is an opportunity that you can't pass up. This isn't Florida State from even 10 years ago. It sure isn't the Florida State from 30, 40 years ago. So, as a program. So I just don't feel like you can turn down that TV money. You got to take it. And like I said in previous podcasts, had Florida State joined 30, 40 years ago, where would we be right now in terms of the program? We might not have been as good in the 90s, with the run that we had, but where would we be right now? So, I mean, back then, when Florida State was independent, I didn't really care what conference they went to. I just, like I said, I just wanted to see the rivals, Clemson, Florida, Miami. I just want to see those games. So if we do join the SEC, I just hope that, we can keep that, those rivalry games together. This whole conference realignment thing is just, it's chaos right now. And I just hate that Notre Dame is like the centerpiece of the whole thing. I don't feel like they've done anything in the last, 35 years to really warrant that attention. When was the last time Notre Dame won a national championship? I think Notre Dame gets a lot of consideration because of their name. It is what it is. I don't hate those guys. I just feel like a lot of the attention that they get is not justified. With that being said, if the ACC can add them, I think that would make the conference a little bit more viable in terms of TV money. But I don't think you're going to get anything close to what the Big Ten or the SEC is going to get. I mean, after let's just say the ACC gets Notre Dame. Who do you add next? Because the Big Ten and the SEC added, two really, UCLA is not a really good program, but they are a part of Los Angeles, and it's just USC and UCLA is a package deal for the media market of Los Angeles, and that's why UCLA has a seat. Texas and Oklahoma, two national brands. I mean, that's just, people are going to watch those games. No, people are going to watch Notre Dame. So if the ACC gets Notre Dame, who is the next team that they could add that could bring, that type of cachet? I don't think there's any other team left on the board that has national recognition like that. I really don't think it is. So I think if Notre Dame joins a conference, I mean, they're going to be looking at, okay, can we get out of this conference and get to the national championship? And they're looking at they probably won't join the Big Ten. They're definitely not going to join the SEC. They probably join the ACC and just say every year is going to be Clemson that we have to contend with. And, Florida State is still rebuilding. Miami is almost there in terms of coming out of their rebuild stage. They're a little further along than Florida State. I can admit that. But it's going to be really interesting to see. I've read some things about the buyouts for these schools. So ACC is not going to lose any teams anytime soon. So, like I said, I just, and I'm not some kind of ACC homer, okay? It just happens that my favorite team went to the ACC, I think it was 1992, 91, I'm not sure, 91 or 92. So, I think if man, that the big ear mouse is running everything, man. I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want my, podcast to get demonetized or whatever, flagged. But the big eared mouse is running the show, man. And, the two networks that are competing for this, they're the ones that's making this stuff happen. So I like it. I like these moves if it's going to produce better games. If it's not going to produce better games, what is the point? Okay, if you're going to pay somebody $2 billion to broadcast their games, then we should not see Michigan opening up against, I don't know, Norfolk State. I don't know. I don't know anything about the cupcake schools. We shouldn't see that. We should not see those games. I think Norfolk State is a HBCU, so I'm not taking a shot at the HBCUs. I'm just making a point that if you're going to do all this moving around, just make it make sense. At the end of the day, I just think that if the ACC is going to have any staying power, they're going to have to get Notre Dame. I mean, that would go a long way to keeping the ACC together. If you don't get Notre Dame, I just think it's going to be, over. Or somehow you can get some of those Pac-12 teams and merge with them. That's really it. I mean, the ACC has got to make a move if they're going to have any staying power. But like I said earlier in this episode, I don't care if the ACC stays intact or not. I really could care less. Only 3 games I care about: Clemson, Miami, and Florida. As long as we play those 3 games, I really don't care who we play after that. Okay, if you have a chance to go to the SEC and get $100 million every year just off TV money, you have to take that deal. Because, like I said, Bobby Bowden ain't walking through that door. God rest his soul. 1990s ain't walking through that door. 2012 through 2016 ain't walking through that door. This is a different program, different team, different coach. And, for all things being considered, I mean, we're not going to be knocking on the door of a national championship or even an ACC championship anytime soon, in my humble opinion, just keeping it real. So, if you have a chance to get that type of money to put into your program, you have to take it. 1 year of that money, you could build your facilities. 2 years of that money, you can do stadium upgrades. 3 years of that money, you could, alter the course of your program. So, you have to do it. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So Florida State has got some decisions to make. Now, all this talk about Florida State going to the SEC, I haven't seen anything official on like your most common sports websites. This is all social media driven. So I don't put too much stock in it yet. But, Clemson has been carrying the conference for the last, 7 years? So, you got, this season has to be a success. It has to be. 8-4, 9-3. I'll even take 7-5 as a success. But you can't go out here and go 5-7 again. That's just not acceptable at this point in the game. We need a winning record. We need to be competitive in every game. No blowouts. All close games, in terms of the losses. Now, I don't want all the wins to be close, but, I just want to be competitive in every game. I need this team to show up game one, ready to play, okay? And just every game thereafter, ready to play. There should not be a 3 to 4 game phase where we're trying to get the team focused. Like, this is the time now to get your team focused and locked in. We're basically 6 weeks away? Like, this is the time to be having team meetings and whatever. I mean, they're probably with the strength and conditioning coach right now, Storms. So this is the time for your team to lock in and get ready for the grind. So that's it. As usual, I want to thank people that listen to this podcast every week. I really do appreciate it. The podcast is available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Again, thank you for listening. As always, go Noles.